do a bit of a ride along, you guys. And while we're riding along, I'll explain a few things. One of the things we're gonna do next is fold that black dirt in right in front of us into the grade. But I was very careful not to say into the upper layer, because really what we're trying to do is just incorporate the whole thing together. We're not looking for any stratification. We really want to bring everything together. And we do not want layers. So we're just going to work it. I mean, we're just going to work it one way, and we're going to work it another way. We're going to also use the tines. This might be a great spot for you guys to see how these tines work. Oh, they work better if I hit the auxiliary button. Yep. Little green light, means go. So I can control how deep I actually, right now I'm digging kind of deep. Don't want it deep, bring it up. But I've also got, on this attachment, I've got a front rake to work with, and I've got a back rake. And I say it like that because it's easy when you're in the very first stages of learning this thing. It's easy to go, wait a minute, why do I got that pile at the end of a run? Well, maybe because like right now, I'm just leaving my back rake down. I'm not feathering or floating anything. And what happens is I get a pile. That was my fault. Now, if I feather it or float it as I'm backing up, I eliminate that. But I don't mind having piles. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm folding this all together. So I'm taking piles. Now, what we used to have to do in the old days before we had cool attachments like this or other things when we were out grading on a site is we would have to feather the dirt, carry and feather, because we can't compact it. That's one of the things that we really got to touch base on is you can't compact this dirt. If you compact this dirt, if you drive over it with a truck, if you've done anything like that, then everything that we've done up to this point in the video has been for nothing. Okay, but wait, if you look right there, I'm driving over the dirt. So how do you grade it and fluff it? Well, with this attachment, you can drive over it all you want because you can scarify it to whatever depth you want at the end of the run. In the old days, we would use a bucket and fluff the dirt out and then hand rake and get everything brought together. So this saves a lot of time. Got to be careful now, back to the black dirt and spreading that. We've got to be really, really careful that not only do we get it incorporated into the upper layer, but we don't get it compacted into the upper layer. We don't want it compacted. But with this thing, we don't have to worry about that. All we really got to do right now is get it where it's got to go. And then if we feel anything has been compacted, I just hit the tines and it loosens it right up. At a high idle. For one, I want to hear you guys, but for two, I just don't feel a need to. This is not a high horsepower situation. This is a finesse. Let's finesse her. Yeah. All right, I got to get some over that way, so lifted it, carried it, now let's push it. And once I get it all positioned, I'm just gonna then, right now I'll do a little light grade backwards. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for the tires on my skid loader. I don't see them, right? So now I can start to lift up, and I won't have as, well, I kind of did that wrong because I was looking at this bucket right beside me as I was backing up, not paying attention. You know, I live here, I could move a lot of the obstacles, but you can't move obstacles on a job site, so you just get used to working them around them, and then when you're doing stuff like this, I don't mind leaving them because it's a way to keep my skills sharp, because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And my job no longer is to be out on the site with the boys, as to me, the boys then wonder, are they good enough? Do they need me there? Do I feel that they need me there? And none of that is true. A lot of times I just want to go out on the job and have fun and keep my skills sharp, but I also want to make sure that the guys know that I'm not there because they need help or they're doing anything wrong. I'm just there because I want to have fun. But I also like having fun right at my own house. See, I can just go in and get a spin drift. Bet you didn't think this how to seed a lawn from scratch like a pro video would be so much machine work, right? Well, this is how we do it. Actually do it on a job site. On a job site, we don't use chemicals. On a job site, we don't use any fancy seed. We use the landscaper's mix because it's all around. We found that it just has the right blend, a great growth rate. It can get the lawn established, and then the lawn can be tweaked afterwards because you can reseed it. And so I tell my customers that, I mean, they can actually control the color of their lawn just through the kind of grass seed they get. It's crazy. And the only reason I even bring that up is I've actually had customers complain because the color of their new lawn didn't match the color of their old lawn. And that's when I had that aha moment, like, well, it wasn't really an aha moment, it was like an, oh crap, I can't believe there's people that picky out there. But there are. So you gotta know how to address that. You know how you address that? You tell them ahead of time, I'm not gonna color match your lawn. And you go, oh man, I don't want to tell people that every single time. No, it's boilerplate. You put it into the contract, the fine wording of your contract. I'm not going to color match your lawn. And that goes on every proposal. Like every one of my proposals, it has a fine clause saying I'm not going to do a soil correction. I'm just not going to do a soil correction. And that means once we start digging, if we find unsuitable soils, once we start digging under the ground that aren't structurally safe to keep working, then we need to be able to change those soils. One time when we were digging underground, we found a barn buried, and that was just last fall. All right, there we go. That is some fine tuning. It's just like combing your hair with this thing. So really, I stopped on the Fluff one. I stopped using these at all. And it was just front tines, back tines. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it doesn't matter. So I just combed this all together. All right, it's the final fluff down. All right, it's the final fluff down. That's what I'm trying to say. What I want to do is just poof it. Let's get poofy with it. But one of the things I want to point out I am not doing is trying to drive any more than I have to over the center. I'm trying to grab the edges and blend them into the existing grass. So the fence will help do the final blending of the existing grass and the black dirt together so you don't get any rough edges or transition joints from one grade to another grade. time to seed. I'm going to opt to seed the old-fashioned way, and that is just using my nose pickers. There's one thing that you gotta really keep an eye out for, and that's that. You see that right there? That's really the worst thing you can possibly do. Overseeding will have all of this grass seed will compete against each other and eventually kill each other off. So overseeding like this is the biggest no-no. And it's simply, if you do it, kick your foot around. But we do have to embed the seed anyway. But the easiest way to do it, it's not very windy tonight. So what I'm doing, let me just show you. It's coming out between my thumb, my knuckle. I'm casting, like I'm casting a fishing lure. It's really simple, really straightforward. It's just a very gentle flicking wrist motion. And anywhere you miss a spot, you can always fill in just a titch. And you got really good control simply by opening or closing your finger and your thumbs like this. I want a little, there you go. I want a lot. Simple. And you can see how you can get a beautiful pattern. Now it's going to take you a little longer than it will if you use a spreader. Oh, and don't worry about going too light. Going too heavy is way worse than going too light. If you go too light, you can always overseed it. And when you're overseeding it, you can just spot seed, overseed. Or you can do a general overseeding as well. So let's say you're worried when you buy sod. Have you ever seen sod farms and tree farms at the same place? The answer is no. The sod is grown wide out in the open, right? So with it being grown right out in the open, it's automatically a sunny mixture. You can only get sunny mixture sod. But if your yard is shady, guess what's going to happen to that sod? It's going to die. It's just the law of nature, right? It's going to die. Bad. We'll fix that in a moment. So the way you fix that is if you want the instant lawn, you don't want to wait for seed, so you sow. And if your yard is shady, overseed it with a shade mixture of seed. And what will happen is, as that sunny sod will still take, it'll still start to grab roots and do erosion control, this, that, and the other thing. But the shady mixture will eventually outcompete the sunny mixture of the sod. You just overseed with a shady mixture. All right, we've got the seed spread. Now it's time to embed. All we're really doing here is a light rake in. The soil needs to be moist, not muddy, moist. You can kind of see that it's not dry, powdery. That's moist. Well, that's perfect for the seed. Too heavy, too light, problem solved. So really, as I'm embedding the seed, breaking up the areas that I screwed up, like this entire thing. But it doesn't take much. And it does a really nice job of getting all your final contours blended in. I'm gonna grab my less efficient but longer Fiskars. And I say less efficient, it's still a spring rake, it's just not as wide. That's it. But what a nice savers on my back. Wow. Interesting story about Fiskars. I know some of you guys know this story, but not all of you do. I was at a Fiskars booth at a tool show, and I was talking to like the Fiskars media people and everybody, and we're just literally having fun, chit-chatting, and I'm like, so Fiskars has this lifetime replacement warranty. If you ever break a Fiskars tool, they'll give you a brand new one. a new one. And I'm like, so I turned the camera and I'm like, so are you telling me, and I got it on camera, anything you do, like you can break it anyway? And the guy's like, if it's broken, we'll replace it. We don't want to know how you broke it though. That's pretty epic. Like all you got to do is take a picture and send it in. Or, I mean, hell, Frankie's, I can't tell you how many Fiskars axes Frankie's just brought in, and they just hand them a new one. They don't ask. Here's your new one. Frankie likes to split a lot of water. I think he does about 30 quart a year. Kind of by himself. Lately I've been helping him. And it's fun. All right. Let's check out and see what she looks like. The seed is now in. It's embedded. You should have the soil moist, and this is your job now to keep it moist, not mud. And you have to anticipate what Mother Nature is going to do as well, because she may have a torrential downpour. And let's talk about how you can protect your seed and preserve that moisture, and that's by adding a layer of straw. Now, let me just point a few things out, because some people may say, well, I don't have straw, okay? And I get that. You don't have straw, right? You may be tempted to use grass clippings or leaves. Let me just tell you a little bit about the negatives of those before you go and use them. Grass clippings are pretty fine, and they tend to blow away. Although they'll help you preserve your moisture for a short while, they really don't do the same thing as true straw. Now this isn't true straw, but it's very similar. Now how about leaves? They're too big. Leaves just have too large of a surface area, which can block the sun underneath it and shade it so that the seed won't germinate properly. How about straw? Let's look at straw. Straw, this is not straw, but very close. Straw stitches the soil together. It also allows good sun penetration. And you see how it interlocks and interweaves like this? But it has length to it. So the individual pieces are fairly long. And that's beneficial because then the longer, the heavier the material, still allowing nice penetration like you can see here, the better it is for your soil. And this would be about as dense as I would go over any area. If you go too dense, you're now blocking your seed, okay? If you go too light, the straw doesn't interlock, right? So you really just want to have this nice screen or mesh. And they actually have it in rolls, and you can just roll it out, and it's got a mesh fabric behind it, and you got to staple it down, and it takes a couple of years for that mesh to go away. Or you can just do this. Get a couple bales of hay, a couple bales of straw, and lay it down. And that's our video, guys. I know we went pretty deep. Huzzah! There you are. All right, guys, that's our video for today. Hope you enjoyed it. It was real fun just to hang out with you guys. So I want to say thank you for coming along, tagging along for the ride. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline. And so I'm just excited to have you guys along on each and every video. And thank you guys for pre-liking the videos. I see you doing it. Much appreciated. And I hope whatever you guys are up to, I hope it's just awesome. God bless, and go get them, you guys. And hopefully we'll see you on another one.